Welcome to Leadership Devotionals. For today, we are already on the third installment on the series that we have on Nehemiah, the servant leader. The first two were stories about Nehemiah being he is really a true slave. He is really a true servant. And in that, because of the vision that God has given to him, he eventually became a leader. And in the second installment that we had, and I invite you to, if this is the first time you have seen Leadership Devotionals, you can review the other two. We have talked there about how Nehemiah was able to secure the resources so that he will be able to build the walls of Jerusalem through prayer and asking the king. Okay? So the principle there, if you want to receive, first ask. And so here now, in the third installment, we can see here that Nehemiah this time has a big challenge, has a big challenge in front of him. That's why this episode is entitled The Challenge on Nehemiah. It should not be overlooked that the rebuilding of the temple took place under Ezra, at which time a spiritual revival had begun in Jerusalem. Nehemiah was not just a leader who arose in a vacuum. God had been preparing the way for the next step of the journey, and he used leadership to further his purpose and accomplish this task. We can see here, God in heaven is reigning supreme over all of the affairs of his nation. And he has been preparing the way step by step, even using a cupbearer, a slave, a nobody in the temple courts of King Artaxerxes to be the leader to achieve his purpose. But you see, leadership demands responsibility. Leadership faces a lot of challenges. And this visionary leader, Nehemiah, both evoke both the worst and the best in people. He evoked the best among his people there in Jerusalem, but likewise because of doing that, because of building the walls of Jerusalem, because of rebuilding the gates, the people surrounding Jerusalem, he also evoked their anger towards him. And so whenever a leader begins a project, whenever a leader begins a task, or calls out a vision to the community or to the organization, or promotes a direction embraced by the community, always be prepared, because there will be opposition to that. There will be naysayers to that vision. There will be even enemies that the leader may encounter. Nehemiah was dogged by local leaders opposed to what he was doing. Nehemiah was doing a good thing, but some people around doesn't want the Israelites to prosper, doesn't want them to rebuild themselves and be strong again. That's why the local leaders opposed Nehemiah. They quickly moved, from not just opposers, but eventually became outright enemies. Nehemiah encountered opposition before he even arrived in Jerusalem. Sanballat and Tobiah quickly moved from feeling disturbed by this new leader to engaging in caustic sarcasm. They were laughing at him, they were deriding him, they were reviling him, and they were doing all things to put down this new leader that has arrived in Jerusalem. Their mockery was interspersed with laughter and derision. And fellow leaders, how many times in our leadership journey, how many times when we present a vision, when we present a project, we hear people snickering at us, smirking at us. We see them, smiling and just saying, oh, that will just happen for a while, but that will be gone. That will just be there for a while, but nothing will come out of that. People like this, yes, they tend to be discouraging. They tend to, hurt us, hurt our feelings. But you know what? Nehemiah stood his ground. He stood his ground even though he was mocked, he was laughed at, and he was derided. As Nehemiah remained committed to his vision, their sarcasm, his enemy's sarcasm, turned to threats. And not only threats, they even became outright guerrilla warfare. The book of Nehemiah records that when their threats have already become real, the workers in the walls are now equipped with their own swords girded in their waist. While they chop wood, while they shape the gates, while they chisel on the rocks so that they will put on top of each other to become the wall, they also have their weapons with them. In case they will be attacked by the enemies of Nehemiah, they will be able to repel these attacks. That's how the situation has turned into, because people were adamantly and viciously opposed to the good thing that Nehemiah was doing. Fellow leaders, how many times in our lives, when people attack our character, people attack ourselves, they would even attack our families. They would even make things personal. When they know that you are committed to your vision, when they know that you are doing a good thing and they cannot destroy you, their threats, their attack will become vicious. But fellow leaders, if God is with you, hold on to that vision, hold on to that mission, hold on to God. Because He will be there with you to guide you in each part of the way. Yes, people may oppose us, but God will be our victory. That's why ultimately we can see here that in Nehemiah, strong leadership evokes equally a strong reaction. He said to his people, the people outside here are against us. They don't want us to build these walls. So gird yourself up. Put on your swords. Continue the work. The work must not stop. But be ready yourselves. Strong leadership evokes an equally strong reaction. And there is no point here to be neutral. People has to take sides, whether they are for Nehemiah or they are for the enemy. Sides has to be clearly taken. Sometimes, people, when they try to destroy leadership, they will not only attack from the inside, but they will also attack from the inside. From the outside, but also attack from the inside. Ultimately, they sought to use, Sanballat and Tobiah, ultimately sought to use an insider, a trusted confidant, to lure the man of God into a death trap. They asked Nehemiah to come out and, have a meeting with them. External opposition is easier to handle than internal strife. Conflict and misunderstanding are common when one casts a noble vision. Even when the community embraces it, because some people in the community will also have their own agenda. Often, the leader of leaders will become a mediator between conflict between the members of his team. We have to address this because it's only in unity, okay? Only in being one, in unity, will an organization be strong enough to address opposition from the outside. If there is internal strife, this organization will be broken down. That's why the challenge calls, this kind of challenge for leader calls for an understanding of the underlying interest, attention to process, the excellent communication techniques, and expertise in negotiation skills. This Nehemiah exhibited when he settled internal strife within his ranks. We see these skills used effectively in the book, chapter 5 of Nehemiah, when Nehemiah learns that the wealthy are using the opportunity to profit from their poorer workers. And so Nehemiah moved in. The people were complaining. They were being taxed. They were paying tribute. And they were already saddled with debts. Internal strife was brewing inside. Nehemiah has to come in, rally the people, settle the conflict. There are enemies outside that has to be dealt with. Let us all be united inside. Fellow leaders, let us always keep the spirit of unity, of respect, cooperation, and collaboration within our ranks. Because it is only by being one and united that we will be able to weather the threats of the enemy. The threats of the ultimate enemy, which is Satan himself, that is there to destroy the work of God that has been entrusted to you and me. God has clearly set a vision for you. God has clearly set a mission for you. And God will abide with you in every step of the way. Don't lose sight of that vision. Even though enemies from outside or even strife from inside will happen, God will see you through as He did with Nehemiah. God bless you. Hello, fellow leaders. If you have been blessed with the devotional that you have just heard, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. Because when you do that, more people, more leaders will be blessed with the same blessing that you have experienced. In YouTube channel, click subscribe to Good Shepherd Consultants. God bless you.